Avonlea. And basically when we first came here, this is what it looked like. And somebody already asked about the roads. What happened when we originally started shooting here, because the red rose of PEI is something that's so specific, they would actually walk up and down the road. They would have paint rollers and they would put like food dye into water and they would actually roll out on the roads. They had sprayers and stuff, but they would do it just enough where we were shooting. But then of course every time the buggies and horses would go over it, the gravel would roll up and then it would be a big strip of white through it and stuff. So eventually they had to come up with a new plan. And so what we did was we hired a landscape company to bring in truckloads of red crushed brick. And we put the red crushed brick all through the roads here that we were shooting on. But up here, this was the main village itself. So right here was, in the first season, Clemmy Ray's house was right here, and then it ultimately became the Pettibone house. Right, right over there was the general store. And over there was the blacksmith shop. And the Avonlea Chronicle and the covered bridge was just down there. So everything kind of laid out from here that way. And over on that hill over there was the schoolhouse, just over through that field. And of course, when we were here, we didn't have corn. This was all just fields. And we really meticulously tried to maintain the fields. The people who lived down there were here the whole time we were filming. And the only actual building that was on this property was what we used as the King House, but was originally used as the back of Green Gables. In the original, that's when Kevin first found this property. As he was driving around and he saw this house back in there, and the house that is the front of Green Gables is a whole other building that is closer to Toronto. But the fields and the back of the house that was used for Green Gables and the field where like Matthew died and all that was all right over there. So say hi to Jack and Helen.
Hello.
When we came here to shoot, did we kick you out? Really? We just shoved you into a room upstairs. Remember the time, Helen, that we did that snowstorm and we blew all the snow into your house? That was
Dad is still floating around.
It was quite a deal. But anyway, the King House played a very significant part in Road to Avonlea, and this was the only house on this property that actually existed when we got here. And so, we had to change it slightly to make it look different than it did in Anne of Green Gables. So we put the blue on it and all that. So down here, we have, down this road, Rose Cottage was just over, nestled into those trees back there. This whole area was the hub of the wheel sort of thing. Down there by the Quonset hut and that whole area where the cornfield is now is where we parked all of our trucks, and we had all the dressing rooms for the actors and lunchroom for the crew, and all that stuff was all parked down there.
Yeah, it seemed like there were a lot of episodes in winter. Was there like a specific reason for it, or did it just happen that way? Like, was it easier to film?
They wanted to make us suffer. There's 2 seasons in Ontario, winter and construction. But no, basically what happened was it was timing. So quite often by the time we would be finished a season, then you have to go through all of the stages of dealing with the broadcasters on whether the show is going to get picked up again, and then you got to develop the scripts and all that sort of stuff. And the show ran for like 8 months of production. So by the time you started episode 1, if you started late in the summer, inevitably by the time you were finished episode 13, like it was full on winter. And so we basically had to adapt the scripts to accommodate the season. But it was tough shooting here in the winter, and we would shoot here in the winter at night. And it was cold. And when you see the actors and they look cold, they're cold. And the lighthouse was built on the hill just over there in the center of that field. And that was actually the worst place to shoot in the winter because there was no shelter. So you'd be out there and the wind would just be whipping through there, and it was really cold.
Generally, that's the pond that you use for most of the pond scene?
Yeah, right down there. That pond, you know the scene in Anne of Green Gables when right after Gilbert saves Anne off the bridge?
Yes.
That bank right over there on this end of the pond is where they staged the scene after that.
Oh, yes.
After
yeah,
Gilbert,
afterwards.
because there wasn't enough area at the actual bridge itself to be able to stage that scene.
Did you film all the skating scenes down on that pond when it was frozen?
Yes, we did. That was another interesting thing. Yeah. We would have water trucks come in here in the middle of the night and flood that pond and get stuck. That was always fun. And then it would snow, and then we'd have effects guys or me or whoever. We'd be down there with snow blowers taking the snow off the pond. There's the one episode where there was a skating party and they had all the ice sculptures and stuff around, right? And it got really mild and all the ice sculptures started to melt. And plus in the winter, the days are so short. So day exterior scenes were really difficult because, especially with all of the different elements, with like the animals and the extras and the cast. Like Avonlea had days where we would have like 11, 12 principal actors in. Especially so every one of those actors needs to have a close-up or a two-shot or whatever. And so the directors and the whole production crew are scrambling to try to get all of the shooting done before the sun goes down. Well, the problem was with all of these buildings that were here is that they were basically built like sets. So there was no real sort of structural integrity to the buildings, right? So you'd go in them, and even though on the outside they looked pristine and nice and everything, they were basically held up with struts and plywood. They weren't built with concrete and steel. They were built with skin ply, and it costs a lot of time and a lot of money every single year. Like at one point, the blacksmith shop literally started to fall down the hill. So we had to every year send out carpenters and painters to basically come and refurbish the whole set. When season 1 first started, nobody expected there to be a season 2. Right? So there was no sort of like long range, okay, well, this is going to last 10 years. It was sort of all done season by season by season.